Welcome to the Independent Artist Podcast, sponsored by the National Association of Independent Artists.
Also sponsored by Zapplication. I'm Will Armstrong, and I'm a mixed media artist.
I'm Douglas Sigworth, glassblower. Join our conversations with professional working artists.
Douglas, welcome back to the podcast. It's lovely to see you. It's been a couple of weeks since I've seen you face-to-face, though, down in the lovely streets of Miami.
That's right. Miami was a beautiful place to be.
It was high 70s. Don't always get that down there. But man, I had the pleasure of being in between my lovely wife and then the lovely Annie Bissoni.
Oh, yeah.
Great neighbors.
Yeah, me too. I had good neighbors down my way.
Nice. I don't know that Annie loved her neighbor as much as I was enjoying my neighbor, but she did not particularly enjoy her resident Florida neighbor. Have you ever been pooped on by an iguana, Douglas?
You know, I can't say that I have.
It's like a Cocker Spaniel and 3 ravens. Like, that's what it makes.
I bet the sound is like...
What it sounds like, honestly, is Annie Bissoni screaming. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, poor thing, man. I mean, she was wearing one of her handmade pieces and just iguana unloaded on her.
Well, I had heard there was one in our neighborhood, which I was just down from you. When we pulled in, that was the first thing one of our neighbors said to us. She said, "Beware of the iguanas. They're walking through here." It
made me reminiscent of kind of reminiscent of the grackles in Main Street. The grackles that take up.
Don't know what that is.
What's that?
I don't know what that is. What's a grackle? You can tell me it's another southern thing or what?
It's a bird. You've never seen like a starling or a grackle.
I've never heard that second. I've heard of a starling, but not that other one that I'm
a grackle. Really?
Okay.
Huh. Yeah. It's a grackle. Okay. It's the bird in the late afternoon. It's like that kind of.
Yeah.
But anyway, we
don't particularly like birds in my family.
Really?
I have a bird story.
Okay.
So my parents, when they divorced, it was not amicable. My dad knew that my mom hated birds. And so what does he buy us for Christmas one year is 2 nice little parakeets.
Wow. And the kids are probably all thrilled, right?
We were totally thrilled. But little did I know, we woke up one day and one died, and down the road another one died. And we're like, what did we do wrong? I don't know why these birds have died. And apparently they're very sensitive creatures. And if you scare them, you can actually scare them to death. So I have this vision of my mom walking by their cage when we weren't around and just giving them the 1-2, shouting at them or something.
Jesus. All right. No, I like the grackles. They're, it's funny because like if you ever do that Oklahoma City show, the cops in Oklahoma City years and years ago, they had bottle rockets. I'm not even kidding. They would the cops would light bottle rockets
to scare off the
zip them into the trees and go pow, and then scare off the herds of grackles.
Okay. All right.
Do you know the kind of birds I'm talking about? You've been to that show.
Honestly, no. I've been to the show regularly, and it didn't even dawn on me. I don't even remember. I couldn't even say I remember these birds making noises that you're talking about. I must have been too busy selling.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, everybody else knows what the grackles are, and they make the noise, and then they do the thing, and then they crap on your stuff. All right, moving on. Annie Bissoni, check. Grackles, check. What else you got?
I know something you got because I know you're sometimes entertaining over there.
Oh my God, this was so great. I had a guy. This was so good. I loved this. I'm like, I want to print it on t-shirts. This guy comes into my booth and he was like, hey, just wanted to stop by and let you listen to the podcast. It's like, oh, thanks. Cool. Thanks. I appreciate you listening. That's nice. And I was like, appreciate you tuning in. It's gonna, he said, it's a labor of love, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah. And then he's quiet for a second. He's like, yeah, sometimes you guys are entertaining.
All right.
I was like, okay, yeah, thanks. I'll put it on a shirt. The sometimes entertaining independent artist podcast. Why would you come by and say that? Like, I want to see what this asshole looks like.
Oh,
that's always running his mouth. Maybe that was it.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
There is a thing that happens after you've been on the air for a while, and
where people can't stand us.
Absolutely, what I'm getting at. That's exactly it. Like, God, I'm tired of these guys. You don't have to listen.
That's right. I don't remember anyone holding a gun to anyone's head.
Well, I appreciate you tuning in.
That's right.
I appreciate you finding us sometimes entertaining.
Insults were flying that week. I tell you, I had an artist come into our booth and offer up some unsolicited criticism of our work.
Okay.
And then it ended with no offense. If you have to end the statement with no offense, you pretty much know you just said some shitty shit.
Exactly. You just offended on purpose. What was the, do you mind sharing?
No, I don't want to get too shitty about it, but it did kind of drop a little bit of a shit bomb on us at the beginning of a show. And then it's like, you have to get out of your head. You have to shake that stuff off because, you want to be present and sell. And
I think what's funny about that is that like a lot of people, we do this for a living and we put on these, you put on your airs of confidence and bulletproofness that you've got, but it doesn't matter. Like we're all still like, I don't know, my imposter syndrome is just as great as anybody else's, and right. I know yours is too, and we're fragile. God damn it.
I'm a delicate little creature there, Will.
You're a delicate little flower. Watered. The waters fall directly on the petals. It can damage it's like a violet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But I shook it off and just kept on moving.
Did you have a good show in spite of that?
I had a good show. It did take me a little bit in my head to be like, I have never really just given unsolicited criticism.
Well, off the air, tell me who it is, and I'll just go take a shit on their work.
All right. Perfect.
It's like big brother, little brother syndrome.
Got my back.
That's right.
All right. Good. Hey, I have a question. Speaking of, people really will get sick of hearing us talk if we air our gripes on the air. But let me air one more gripe, and let me just ask you, Will, if there's ever a situation where it's appropriate to park in a neighbor's booth spot while you unload your van.
Yeah, if they're not there.
If they're standing there unloading their shit into their own booth spot, is it still okay to park in their booth spot and unload it?
No, the only time it's okay is if, they're not there and you use their spot and then you're like hyper aware
and you
of
get
when
the
they
fuck
arrive
out of there when they call.
Hey,
yeah,
let me tie that. Sorry about that. Let me move.
Yeah.
That's no. Did that happen to you?
It did.
Obviously?
It did. And so maybe it's just a word of caution to listeners out there that maybe someone will seem real chill about it and be like, yeah, no problem. Take as long as you want unloading in my booth. But no, they really don't like that.
No, that's not, you don't like that?
That's not a thing.
Oh, okay. Does Renee like that?
Neither one of us like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, gotcha. Wow. All right. So do park.
No, do not.
Do not park in your booth and unload into my booth. Yeah. That's a way to, that's an interesting way to start your weekend off.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I thought this was really funny. I was unloading and there was a guy. This is terrible. There's a guy there's enough room in the middle of the street to have an open lane and for people to pull over and park on the right. And so this guy, instead of pulling over all the way to the right, parks in the direct middle. Now, there's still about maybe 9 feet. You can still get most vehicles through with about just a hair, a piece of paper on either side with your mirrors in. But he still could move over like a couple of feet.
Yeah, get to the curb.
And this guy, he's standing there, and I'm pissed. I'm like, dude, I can see how much room there is. You could have pulled over.
Yeah, right.
There's 4 extra feet. Like, we don't need any guidance. We don't need any people, doing a
little bit of thumbs this way, thumbs that way.
We're not trying to land an airplane here together. Right. We don't need to go through this. And so I get all the way through, and the guy has guided me all the way through. And I have my windows down.
Yeah.
And I said, that would have been a lot easier, and you wouldn't have needed to do that if you get your piece of shit out of the middle of the street.
Sometimes you are entertaining there, Will.
That's right. And my poor wife was like, she just sighs. She's like, we were through. Like we'd already done it. Like you'd already gotten through. Like you'd already and she didn't yell at all. She just was like, you already did it. Like that was so unnecessary. You'd already, and I was like, because I said, that'd have been a lot easier if you get your piece of shit out of the middle of the street. And he goes, yeah, well, fuck you. And I was like, yep, have a great weekend. And then I buzzed off. And, bye. She was unamused. I'm like, that's me. That's
right.
Full. Got all the way through it. That's like my Olive Garden story.
All right, I don't know that one. All these years, I don't know your Olive Garden story.
I'll tell you, I used to work at the Olive Garden way back in the day. Cut my teeth, waiting tables there, figuring out how to do that, bartending before I went on other places. But
okay,
I have a 6-top, and I'm waiting tables at the time, not bartending. I've got like a 6-top, and you've got this huge tray, and the hot pasta dishes are all lined up all the way around the tray.
Sure.
And I've got it up over my head. I hoist it. I'm getting ready to take this whole tray out, and I walk out of the restaurant alley, get to the door, and somebody has spilled, without cleaning it up, an entire bowl of soup all over the floor. And it's greasy. And I do a James Brown. I just like split. And this tray comes down in my hand, and it bounces in my hand, and I hold that thing out. Like all the way out, it bounces. Not one dish fell off of this tray.
Didn't lose a thing.
Didn't lose a thing.
Jeez,
and so I take this tray.
Yeah, that's some skills.
And I throw the whole thing up against the wall, and say, "Which one of you dumb motherfuckers spilled soup on the floor and didn't clean it up?" That's who I am, baby.
Little did you know you had a future in art fairs.
I got all the way through.
Yeah.
I did the splits. Piece of paper on either side, didn't need direction.
So you didn't need to throw the tray into the wall, or it ended up going into the... That was just for added dramatic effect?
I felt like I needed to. I thought it was necessary. I got fired right on the spot. Yeah, my manager was like, because he was standing right there, and he's like, "Well, I can't believe it, you did it." And he's like he's clapping. He's so happy I haven't dropped it or broken a dish, and I still broke every single dish just on purpose. And he's like, "Get that out of my kitchen." And I leave, and I came back the next night because I was bartending.
Yeah.
And he was like, and it was Friday night, and he's like, "I fired you yesterday." I was like, "You fired the server, you didn't fire the bartender."
And so did you go home, or did he keep you?
And then I just kept working. Yeah, he kept me. I was like, "What, are you going to make all of these?" Like, you can't make all of these. And so, it was a busy Friday night, and I walked in at 5, and they're already in the weeds, and I just,
you're like, you hate that you need me right now, don't you, Mr. Boss?
Yeah, and I didn't say anything else to him. I was like, you fired the server. I'll never work another server shift again. How about that? And he's like,
okay.
So you liked it,
I like
though.
that story. That's pretty good. In all my years of serving, I only dumped one tray, and it was a tray of like champagne flutes for like a governor's ball or something at the St. Paul Hotel. And one was about to go. And on those damn things, those tall, skinny flutes, if one goes, they're all going.
Yep.
So I'm like, I am not dumping this on some socialite and like rhinestones and stuff. So I take the other hand that wasn't holding the tray, and I wrap it around the flutes that are about to tip over, and I hugged them. And I just hugged it into my gut, and I turned around and I walked into the kitchen like nothing ever happened. Nobody saw a scene, nothing. I'm just like, damn. Covered my ass on that one.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
I could have told a story like that. And it's like, and then I caught the tray, and everybody gave me applause.
No, I don't think anybody noticed. They didn't even know I was like soaked because, I don't know.
Good man. That's how you do it. You're a pro. All right, folks. Speaking of story time and pros, we've got a professional here on the podcast this week. This is somebody whose work I have admired for a long time, but I've never actually gotten a chance to meet him. So I'm getting a chance to meet him with the rest of the listeners here on the Independent Artist Podcast.
I recorded with Nathalia last December, and some of these we have banked that we were going to air later and edit as our year went on. But I thought how appropriate to share Nathalia Toledo Barcia's story, because she just came off of a Best in Show win at the Coconut Grove, where the two of us exhibited last
Heck
weekend.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Big congratulations to her on that. Well-deserved. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the work, and I can't wait to hear her story.
I have one other thing to say before we jump into this. It had been a couple of months. I'd forgotten all of the things we had talked about till I went back to listen and edit. And she did a little name drop from our previous episode. She talks about how Aaron Curry mentored her. And and Aaron talks with you last episode about how important that is to her. And it was just kind of interesting how the timing lined up that following Aaron's talk, we're talking to somebody who really benefited from Aaron's knowledge and mentorship.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought you'd enjoy hearing that. So.
Yeah, I definitely love hearing. Thank you for telling me that. Yeah. And without further ado, let's jump on into the talk.
This episode of the Independent Artist Podcast is brought to you by Zap, the digital application service where artists and art festivals connect.
So I've started using the events list feature in Zap to search up some different shows to fill those holes in my schedule.
You know, I feel like I should have something to say, but I wasn't really listening to you because I'm looking at the events list right now, and It's pretty cool. Okay, so you drop the menu down, and there at the bottom, go scrolling all the way. About third thing down in the smaller print, it just says events list.
That's right. All of the shows appear here regardless of their application deadline. So you can use the filtering and the sorting to narrow down your search so that you can find that right show that fills your desired time frame or location.
I know a lot of people love that calendar. I like seeing the list of events. I like scrolling through and doom scrolling late at night. It's like online dating. They don't let you swipe left or right, but you can figure out who you want to date in the coming up year. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a call for entry this week. This show is in the very popular Fort Worth area. Douglas, what's the name of the show?
This is the Art Worth Festival, and it's a celebration of fine art, fine craft, and classical music.
Very cool. You know, this one was on my radar last fall, and they did have an impressive group of artists that did the show last year, and some good friends of mine. So
this show is October 23rd through the 25th. It's their 5th year, so they've got kind of those like growing pains out of the way. So now they're established, they know what worked, what didn't work, and they're moving forward.
I can't tell you how appealing that date is to me.
The application is coming due in June 14th.
And with the way we broadcast our shows here once a month, that's coming up quicker than you'd actually imagine.
They've allocated quite a large budget towards marketing. They have a media sponsor, which includes the local TV stations and radio stations, magazines, online, streaming ads, as well as 50,000 direct mailings. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities to get the word out on this one.
What this says to me, folks, is that they're committed to making the show work. Get in on the ground floor of a new show coming up here in Texas.
I think I'm going to check that one out. Nathalia Toledo Barcia, so nice to meet you. Thank you for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be in the podcast. I was listening to some recordings the other day, and so many people I know from the shows. I'm able now to know them deeper now that I have heard, some of their interviews.
I think it was maybe 2 years ago when I was at a show. And I walked by your booth and, I kind of felt like I knew everybody or I knew most people. And I'm like, your work stood out. It really hit me. And I'm like, I've got to talk to her. I've got to find out about her background and what inspires her. So thanks for making this happen.
Thank you.
So when did you get started doing art fairs?
Probably was at the beginning of 2023. In New Orleans, I was working as a hostess and a server assistant. I was, doing a full-time job doing that, and I have some time to do portraits there from the servers, some customers. So I was trying to make a living that way. And then when I met my partner, Zach, and I was more secure, I feel like, in the place I was living. So I was able to get a part-time job here in the North Shore as a teacher, like a preschool teacher. So I was able to work in my art.
Oh.
And I started to do at City Park in New Orleans, like shows there. A little, market, craft shows, like very, very little thing.
Yeah.
And I met some artists there who were doing, shows outside. I didn't even know they existed. So I applied, I remember, to a show that is like organized by the same people, Fair Hope.
Okay, yeah.
So I think like my first experience, probably September, October 2022.
Mm.
And when I was there is when I got to meet some really nice artists that told me about the whole circuit and the best shows to apply to. So probably in 2023, I was emerging artist. That was my first show. I consider like my first big show. That was in Casperilla, so I was emerging there.
I see. And that was 23?
2023, yeah. So it's like
Gotcha,
if you,
right.
and then Bayou City, I got accepted. Then I got rejected in all the other shows. And then on 2024, I got accepted in all the shows that rejected me on 2023.
And was the work similar?
It's the same work. It was the same
work. Okay.
The same. I added more paintings, but it was my same work. I realized that my wood shot was really unprofessional.
I see.
I was still like accustomed to the market, city park market scene.
Yeah.
And it was thanks to, I will say, people that I met at the rivers that when I saw like their boots are incredible. Is when I was like, okay, I'm like losing points with my boot. But it's the same body of work. It's the same topic, same colors.
Mm-hmm.
I just improve the boot.
Yeah, well, that's really great that right off the bat, other artists were willing to give you a hand and to kind of give you some advice and didn't like leave you out there flailing. A lot of people think of it as a competitive business. I mean, it kind of is. We're applying for so many spots and, you know, sometimes people aren't helpful because it means it could knock them out of the application process by helping somebody else get a leg up. So kudos to them.
I remember my neighbor told me, probably you're getting rejected because your canopy is a flying hazard. And it was true. You know,
Easy up, I take it.
Very, like $200 canopy. So, and then I met now a very good friend of mine, Erin Corey.
Mm.
And she was the person who really, in that show at Rivers at the end of 2022, who told me everything I needed to know, you know, the name of the canopies, the pro panels names,
yeah,
you know, how even like, you know, everything looks really difficult, you know, when you are like a new person coming to the scene and you see everybody, you know, setting up and everything looks like, you know, a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like we're building an entire store, you know, and if you're new to it, it's like, how do I even get started? Where do I even begin?
Yeah. So I think like I'm very grateful to her generosity and I try, you know, to help out people as well. I mean, she's also a mentor, you know, she helps a lot of people to get into the business. I really count 2023 to this year, but I was like still in the womb, not even in diapers yet.
You were.
Yeah. So,
And then do you feel like there's still kind of a lot for you to learn, or do you feel like you're kind of hitting your stride?
I think I have learned a lot so far, thanks to, you know, very kind, generous and professional artists that I think like we should always uplift each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a competition, you know, there are like only 200 spots in some shows. You have sometimes over 1,000 people applying, but at the same time, it's like we are all these naive believers who want to make art as a way of living. And so right now, I won't say I'm like very successful in the financial way yet. And I am still building my collectors. I want to start a newsletter. I have so many emails. I have never written anything because I'm focusing more in building inventory. I'm focusing more in trying to get like a good resume.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm always looking for creating this masterpiece that is going to make me feel not only fulfilled, but kind of like, oh, you know, I have improved myself, you know, challenging myself. Many people who collect my work are people from the shows, other artists. And I think like it's important that, you know, you can be a successful artist, kind of like helping out all the people that believe in you and, get pieces from you. So I'm working more on that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I would say I'm not even in the middle way yet, but at least I know now how to navigate the application process. We always get rejections, so it's like hard to manage that. But I think at some point we are all in the right path, right?
Mm-hmm. There's so many components to becoming a successful artist. It's discovering your voice. And I feel like you're there. I mean, you've got that in spades. And then there's that element of the business side of things. And no matter how good our work is, finding our audience and having that translate into making a living, that's something that takes a while, And there's a lot of times that people get exposed to our work. I mean, just from my own experience, and we feel good about something, for example, that we're putting out there. And it might take a customer 2 or 3 years before they're ready. So sometimes it's just meeting up at the right time, and it's a building process. And I know that's frustrating for all those people out there who are kind of getting their foothold in this world, but it does sometimes just take time. But you sound like you've got kind of the right strategies. Like, how can I keep in touch with collectors after the show? How can I keep them in the fold and keep the conversation going?
I mean, I don't have that yet. I have to work on that. Yeah.
So that's your goal. But you've identified that's your goal.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that in the U.S. you were working in a restaurant. You were working as a hostess, but I mean, before that, you have quite a creative history. Yeah. So let's tell us about what kind of your creative path and when that started, and how you kind of started down the path of being an artist.
I'm from Ecuador, and Ecuador is a very little country. It gets their name because we are in the middle, of the equatorial line.
Oh, right.
And I say, since I was very little, since I was a child, I knew I wanted to make art. Probably not as a way of living, but I was very, I was never like playing outside. I was like always like painting, using pencils or paintings. And then my grandma was like a lady who, she didn't even finish high school. So she was like oriented to the family, like, cooking and just keeping the house. And when all her kids grew up and then were, like she was taking care of her grandkids, she had more time. So she started to study music, and she was probably, in her 60s. And then she was teaching me how to play, the songs that she was learning. And she was like, oh, she's really good. And she has very good hearing.
And how old were you when she was teaching you that?
I was 7.
Okay.
In Ecuador, in every main city, conservatories of music that are paid by the state. And you have to pass a test, show that you have what it takes to play music. Right. So they make, rhythm tests, like hearing tests, stuff like that. So I was admitted at a conservatory when I was 8 because I already knew how to play some, it was like, I was not even playing like the whole songs yet, but I just skipped one grade. So instead of doing 12 years, I did 11 years.
So is it just music when you enter the academy, or is it like a full education with an emphasis in piano?
So in the morning, I was going to my normal school, and I was studying music in the afternoon. So all my life, I was really busy. So I was finishing school probably at 1:30 p.m. and then going to the conservatory. So the first 3 years of education, I skipped 1 year, was like for theoretical music. And then after, in your 4 year, you start to choose an instrument. That in my case was piano. I was getting at home probably at 7 p.m. and I was like very focused as a kid. So like I was able to do my high school work when I was in high school, like, the teacher is not coming yet. So I was doing my work there and my homework. So I would have some time when I got back at home. something I had was like a stage fright, so I couldn't perform in public. Even we have tests that I have to play in public.
Yeah.
Was always horrible. I got so anxious.
Were you able to push through, or was it stopping
No.
you?
So the last 3 years is when you decide if you want to be like a concertist or you want to be a teacher. So I decided to be a teacher because I couldn't perform. And it was just like, I was very anxious. It's just knowing people were looking at me. And I was even confusing the songs. I knew them by memory, but I couldn't perform. So when I was like 15 and 16, we started like to teach kids. So
were you teaching in an academy or a conservatory, like the kind of
and
school
no, in
that
the
you went
same
to?
in the same conservatory. It's like part of the program that you have to start teaching a kid. The kids are just starting. So then I got into college, and I still had, I think, like 2 more years to finish 12 years, and I did that. So at the end, you have to learn to play accordion, guitar, like very basic, not like deep as your main instrument. So I was going to the conservatory and college, and at that time it was a little bit more difficult because I went to study graphic design, and my college was like at the beginning was like fine art.
Yeah.
And then after you pass the test and everything and you're admitted in college, you have to pass like drawing, painting.
Okay. Yeah.
Then you will go to the computer. So in my case, it's like was the first time I was even drawing like, professionally. So my teacher was like, for tomorrow, make 20 eyes, 20 mouths, 20 ears.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
was so much work. And then I have to go study. So in the conservatory. So I think like that was a difficult time. I passed the test, so I got into there. But I will say that was the way I studied fine art. I already was in the whole artistic scene, but being in a music academy is very different from doing like visual art.
Okay.
Like it's a different kind of sense. I was thinking all the time in music, even when I was free, because you have to memorize the music.
Sure.
So all the time I was thinking in notes, and I knew that I didn't really want to be a performing musician, but it was something my mom wanted. I like music. I love classical music. I love opera.
Yeah.
I also have some like theater classes at the conservatory. I love art history. I love everything related to art and culture in general.
Okay. What made your shift from music to visual art? Is it because of taking the art classes and that kind of set you on a different path?
No, I always like drawing and painting. I remember when I was probably 10 years old, I told my mom that everybody watched this movie Ghost, right? And I saw that lady, working with clay, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to, work with clay. And then my mom told me, no, your hands are going to become dry.
Oh.
And she was, focusing on the hands because I was playing piano. And then I remember I also wanted to dance in a ballet that was also, another academy in the city. And she was like, no, you're not gonna grow because ballet dancer has to be like, very short, and I'm so short.
It's like, come on, Mom, you're shooting down all my dreams here.
Yes, it's like with clay, I knew I wanted that. I always loved to work with Play-Doh. And, like getting into graphic design was a big argument with my mom. And yeah, she wanted me to be an accountant. So
really?
In high school in Ecuador, also the last 3 years of, let's say senior school, you can choose if you want to study physics, chemistry, math. In my case, I chose accounting. So I'm able, to do my books and everything, like, because I studied that my last 3 years of high school.
Okay, so you did kind of focus on accounting there for a bit?
It's like high school, you do like the normal 10 years. So when you are like from 15 to 18, if you want to study engineering, you have to choose math and physics, right? So it's like you get more classes of that. And then when you go to college, you already were like learning that for 3 years all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, because my mom wanted me to be an accountant, I studied accounting these last 3 years. It's like basically, how to make your books, like how the banks work, stuff like that. That's so useful. That I have never been in that. So I know how interest works. I knew that since I was like, 16 years old.
Right.
And, I'm able to do my own accounting. So when I went to college, it's like, told my mom, no, at this point, it's like, I have done everything you say so far. So I studied graphic design there. And I was able to, for the first time, learn fine arts drawing and painting.
Mm-hmm.
I always beg my mom to, so we have Bellas Artes, that is like fine arts in English. And it's another school paid by the government where you study, you do high school, like, middle school and high school, but it's just focusing on arts, sculpture, painting, drawing, everything. And I always told my mom I wanted to do that. And she was like, no, because it was a public school and they were like, a mix. So it was men and female. I studied in a Catholic, nuns, all female school.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I knew that I wanted art. So finally, when I got into graphic design, I was like, doing what I wanted. I realized I was really good. I can do like hyper realistic drawings,
Mm-hmm.
paintings.
Did she ever get on board with your shift, with your decision to kind of follow your own path?
I think like I was following everything she said until some point that I was like, this is what I want to do, and I don't want to work in accounting. Like I saw how my mom worked until very late. Like she has constant headaches.
Mm-hmm.
In the time that computer was just arriving, and so Ecuador is like a little bit behind in technology.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw how hard she worked, and I didn't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So I told to her, and I was like, I want to do this. Of course, like graphic design in Ecuador, I work in advertising agencies.
And that's like a respectable job, too. I mean, it's not like it's unpredictable as being, an independent artist representing your own work. So, I mean, that's still a career.
Yes, but I was, working until late.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it was like kind of my mom's things. And so at some point, I realized that at that time I was trying to eat more clean, organic food. I was not drinking sodas and stuff like that. And I was doing advertising for those type of companies, So I was like, I'm working for the devil. It's like at some point in my life, before traveling and everything, I think that I kind of realized I got some consciousness about what I was doing with my life, because I was working a lot. And when you're an art director, you have to be very creative to create some ideas that are going to convince people about some products and that. So I was like, well, I'm trying to eat organic, but I'm making all these people that, are farmers to buy these chemicals with this idea that we created, and that I was making all the visual things as well. So I was like, no, I'm really working for the devil. I found out that I didn't have integrity because of that. I felt like that. So
yeah, that makes total sense. How old were you when that happened? Because that's a very adult kind of thing, and when you're early in our 20s and stuff, is that how old you were, like in your 20s?
Yeah, I probably was like 24 when I realized that. So then I started to work in a high school, rich kids high school, teaching art, and I really like it, when I was teaching on them. And when I was getting holidays, like, you can get like 2 months holidays when you're working in school, I went to travel around to learn things. So that was the time that I went to Argentina to study etching and engraving.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back to Ecuador. I went back to advertising, but this time was political advertising for the local government in the city. And that was worse. That was so much corruption there.
Oh, yeah.
And
you thought that working in advertising and promoting chemicals going into farmers' foods while you're eating organic was like a lack of integrity. Working for politics probably was a similar thing that you felt like you were butting your head up against.
I thought it would be different because they were trying to make programs also for like rural areas around let's say the state.
Mm-hmm.
And a different ideology until I was there and I saw what was really happening. But because of that, I was able to come back to college and finish my bachelor's degree because I had like more time.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that after this, I have to find something else to do. And then I got tinnitus because I was working all day. I just went back home to sleep 7 hours, and I had like a little argument with one of my teammates from my project for graduation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to, first time, going to do yoga. And when I went there, I was like, how people can meditate with that sound? And I was, listening to this whistle. And my friends, after the meditation part of like the yoga session, my friend was like, what sound you're talking about? You don't hear that? They was like, and then they were like, no, we don't hear that. I was like, oh my God. And so my whole world at that point in my life that I was so busy, I think it was like a confusion time of my life really, because I knew that I didn't want to do what I was doing. And when I got that, I was like, okay, so the word is telling me something. Like,
so what was the sound? Was it that you were being told?
It's a constant whistle. A constant whistle in my ear.
Wow.
Tinnitus.
Yeah.
It's like
right.
hearing loss.
And you think that was from stress, or do you think that was just being told you're on the wrong path, or?
I think it was so I really had this strong argument because I was so busy, and this person had like a lot of orthographic errors. So I got returned the book that you have to make with the project that was like a 3D TV program, something like that. So now I have to read all the books again, and because he also didn't write down the bibliographic part correctly. So I was really mad about that, and probably I shouldn't have managed the situation in that way. But at that time I was just so stressed because I was working. I was still have to finish other subjects that I was in college, plus the graduation project. So I was busy all day. And it was like the same day. It was like probably I was not even paying attention, but when I went to the yoga class and it was the first time I was trying to meditate and, complete silence is when I was like, what is that sound? Probably was the first time I was completely quiet in a long time. I was so busy since I was a kid that when I had free time, I was going to watch TV or watch movies and that. I was always listening to music too. So it's like, I think I never probably got any like quiet time.
Yeah. And was that a major turning point for you then, creatively?
It was.
Yeah.
It was because I quit my job and my dream was like kind of like going to India.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to go see elephants and go to India. That was my dream at the time when I was like probably 26, 27.
Nice.
So I applied to this scholarship that was like in Indonesia that was for students everywhere in the world to study art.
Okay.
So I won the scholarship. Was one person from my city and one person from the capital, that is Quito. So we went to Java, the island of Java, and I applied to study batik, that is like, fabric painting that you have to use wax.
Yeah.
And, dye in the fabric. So I quit my job right first. I finished college, I graduated, and then I went to Indonesia. And when I was there, I was like, oh, this is absolute freedom. In the past, I traveled. Like the longest was when I went to Argentina for like 3 months to study etching. I had been in Peru and, in the US as well.
Okay.
But this was the first time that I was like, oh, I'm going to be gone for 6 months while I study in Indonesia. And then I can go travel around Asia, go to India, for all my dreams. So when I was there, I'd say I was always interested in general in ancestral art.
Okay.
But being able to see how people work. And Indonesia is a country like similar to Ecuador. We don't say time is money, right? Like here in the US, it's a little bit different. Like Indonesia is pretty chill. It's slower, a more simple life, I think.
Where is it more simple?
So,
You said not here, right? Or here is more simple?
no, not here.
No.
In Indonesia.
Indonesia, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, no,
So,
here time is money. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah. So it's like, here it's like people don't have time, really. Indonesia is like more simple. It's more, I would say, collective, family oriented, where every people hang out together. Here it's like you're 18-year-old, you have to leave your house, right?
Okay,
Go fend for yourself. So when I went there, I went to study Batik, and I was traveling around the islands. I was able to see, a lot of like textile work, woodworking as well. Then I went to India. I spent there like 2 months traveling around, and not only going like to temples. I was very interested in meditation. After this tinnitus experience, I was trying to be more aware of my full body and my relation with the world in general. So
like the organic piece, that was like physical, what you're putting in your body, but it sounds like it continued to branch out into more of a holistic spiritual mind-body experience for you, like trying to calm and slow down and get in touch with like bigger, you know what I mean, outside yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was like a more existential. I was questioning my existence in this world, right? I knew that I wanted to make art. I knew that I didn't want to do, these like advertising jobs and that. And I just took time to see the world. And when I went to Peru, and I was like, oh, these textiles are so beautiful. In Ecuador, we have that too. We can see beautiful art there as well. But the government of Indonesia was paying for everything. So not for my travels outside Indonesia. I had like a monthly allowance there. But I was able, like, let's go to India, let's go and see this village here and see how they do mirror work. Or I went like very little villages. I was sometimes traveling alone, sometimes with friends. I went to Papua, the Indonesian part of Papua. I went like to very remote places. And I was like, just living life for the first time, I think, in that time.
And would you say that you mentioned that you're really interested in ancestral art? Tell me what that means to you.
Something that I will say about art in general, when I was reading my books for my college project, like the final project, I came to this book that is called Concerning the Spiritual in Art by Kandinsky. Of course, I read that in Spanish. So at some point in the book has a phrase that was saying that art as a whole shouldn't be the creation of useless objects that are going to vanish in the void, but the useful force for the development of humans and also the sensitization of the human soul. So I was trying to put soul into objects. So that was the first time I was like, because until that point, when I was working and busy and everything, I have all my diaries that I was just drawing, and I have, like 4 books with drawings that I'm painting, and I'm, making ceramics with that.
So that became a source of inspiration for work currently.
Yeah. But in that time of confusion, I will say, like, if you see those drawings, they look very weird. They look very sad. They look very chaotic. So it was who I was, in that time. Right. So first, when I went to Peru, it was like a very immediate connection with the mountains. I was like the first time trying to hike in, like huge mountains and volcanoes. So then when I go to Indonesia, I start to feel like a connection with nature and with the world in general. In the Andean cosmology, all the Andes that covers all South America. So we have this cross that is called the Chacana, and in the middle there is a circle. So we believe, like, you have the celestial realm and the underworld, right? Where spirits, gods, the ancestors live, and we are in the middle, right? So, of course, we, believe we have life thanks to the sun, thanks to the moon. There is life on Earth thanks to that, thanks to the water and the elements, fire and everything. In these different realms, there is things, artifacts, and people like shamans, who can connect the realms, right? So they are like the axis of that can connect, create like a channel in between. So when I was going there and see like the ancestral art, it's like if you see the geometrical patterns that you can find, in mandalas or textiles, I was seeing, these same symbols you can see in textiles from Ecuador, Peru, or Bolivia, right? So there are things that, in different cultures that were not connected in the past were manifested in the art. So I felt like art, especially geometrical patterns, we are all connected, there is a connection, like all humanity is one. So I think like I was able to see, no, this looks very similar, not because they were connected in the past, but because they are getting their information from probably a different state and, it looks the same. I think like at that point, I felt that art can connect us in a spiritual level. That you can see that in art that you can admire in museums. You can see art from Mesopotamia, and we have art in Ecuador that looks very similar from 1,000 years ago.
Okay.
And it's like, how is that possible?
Right. Like, I mean, in the US here and doing art fairs, do you feel like what we all make kind of rides the line between being a commodity versus being a source of connection? Do those things kind of butt heads with each other?
That's a very interesting question. And I don't want to sound like I'm very, I'm judging, right?
Sure. Well, no, this isn't about necessarily work that you're seeing on the scene.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, do you feel like, being in the US and kind of what is a priority to a lot of, people in this country, that might be a situation where it can be a struggle to do art at an art fair, and sell our work at art fairs?
Well, I feel like sometimes people, patrons at the shows are trying to find things to decorate their houses. That's probably their main purpose, right?
Yeah.
And, there are many things they are going to connect with because we are creating a conversation, a dialogue, and probably those things are landscapes, plants, animals, butterflies, stuff like that, right?
Sometimes it's a color scheme. They're like, oh, it's blue, and it goes with my colors I decorate with, you know what I mean? It can be like on the very mundane level, and they're not maybe drawing the connection to the spiritual element that's embedded or infused into the work.
Everybody have to find the formula to make a living, right?
Yeah.
So but I always feel like sometimes people goes for trendy things, and I always have this in my mind that we talk with my friends, like if you're making art that looks like could be sold at Michael's, at Ross, something like, yeah, it's trending, it's right there. It's like you shouldn't be making that because it becomes more like an object. And, there's nothing wrong with design in general. I'm a designer too.
Right.
So, you can create something and have that manufactured, right? And you can sell that in thousands of dollars. We see that people that are just selling things but I think those objects probably, they are beautiful. People want to have them because if you like it, you get it, you have it, you discard it. Right? Probably. And, there are things that are mass produced, and I think like they probably lack soul, right? But it still can create a conversation and connect with people, right? So in that place, what I feel as a human that have a very limited time on earth is that I'm not creating something thinking that I want to sell it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not creating something, putting, my soul, my time, my abilities, trying to challenge myself because I want to sell it, right?
Yeah. So what is the primary intention behind your work?
So I think, like, as I said before, art can connect people in a spiritual level, not only the makers,
Mm-hmm.
but it connects us with, strangers, like people who, for example, pass the booth and they smile and they come to the booth because, like, something called me here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, connects with people that doesn't know us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Transcends languages because, I'm trying to show something that is cultural, probably relevant for me, but people don't know my culture or my
Right.
country or what I inspire, but it can transcend languages.
I think you explained that so well because that's how your work hit me. I'll start with the paintings because they're a larger scale. You know what I mean? They kind of have a
Mhm.
way of reaching out into the street and kind of giving you a 1-2 punch and be like, whoa, what am I looking at? And I feel that sense of like, I don't know what culture I'm looking at, but I feel like
Mhm.
I'm looking at a shaman or I'm looking at a
Yeah.
spiritual leader or somebody. Every portrait is different, but every portrait has a similar through line, that seems like there's wisdom. There might be intelligence, happiness, joy. It's interesting to hear you explain your intention and then actually looking back at my memory and being like, that's exactly what that did for me.
I think, like, art in general should be something that when you create it is to have something in the world that is going to transcend time,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to outlive you,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to pass, but this is going to remain. And I studied pre-Columbian ceramics at a very small workshop. So I always like archaeology in general.
Yeah.
I have many books in my house about, like, indigenous artifacts and that. So when you go to a museum and you see an object that is 2,000 years old,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you see it's there, it's beautiful, was functional probably, maybe for a ritual or maybe for an everyday, object or music instrument or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's so valuable, even when the materials were so humble,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, we can really create, put this very short time we have in this physical plane to make something that can connect us with time. I
Mm-hmm.
try to make my memory last, but not only the artist, but my ancestors, the traditions that they had. Every tradition is embodied in our art and make us, me and my ancestors and all that are connected to, last forever. So in this way, I try to hold the memory
Mm-hmm.
and create this interconnection with something that is useful in the way that it will sustain the social diversity. I cannot make art that looks like New Orleans. It's not my culture,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Even like when I could make money, making that, but I want people to see beyond something that is not common for them.
Mm-hmm.
After I came back from Asia, that I went to the Amazon. That was like the second part of my journey.
Yeah.
And I went, with these shore groups, like indigenous people who live like in a very primal, humble way. They have caves, they have plants, they have medicines.
Yeah.
And, they are all the same feeling that I saw in Indonesia where, just being together give you the sense of fulfillment. Doesn't mean that they don't need, material things. They need them. But
Yeah.
when was COVID, they had everything there. They have all the medicines they needed to survive during those times and food and everything. So there I learned this concept that is called Aents. And Aents is a word in Shuar. So it's like these people from the Amazon forest that,
And I'm going to interrupt you there because I did
yeah,
read a little bit about you that is
yeah.
a focus or an intention in your work, and it's a new word for me. So I just want to like help highlight it here for the viewers who might not be familiar with it. You said it's how's it pronounced? Aents?
Aents,
Aents.
Aents.
It's spelled Aents, and that's that objects hold energy. Is that true?
Yeah, so this concept is like very mystic, where it means that everything is alive, humans,
Right.
of course, animals, the minerals, the elements, water, fire, plants, supernatural beings, because we believe in supernatural beings from the forest,
Yeah.
and also objects, and that you can transmit intention, force, and power to everything that you create, right? So my intention is to bring this concept, transmit like this all wisdom, and manifest that nature is alive, has a force, and that everything has also power, and that is manifested, right? So when we create art, in my case, I try to create art with the intention of bring soul to the objects. So kind of like I want to create an artifact. It's not only a conversation. I want it to bless the place. I try to make art also that is accessible. So sometimes I even have cups. But the act of drinking, whatever you're drinking could be, coffee, water. It's nurturing, connects you,
Yeah. Right.
grounds you.
Right. Putting anything up to our mouth, it's like a sensual kind of thing. And it's like, it's experiential, but it's also nourishment. It's, it's filling us up with something we need.
Yeah. So I think like if we have objects that I'm going to take this time to drink this potion
Yeah.
and feeling that I'm connecting with my body, I'm connecting like probably something that, comes from your family tradition or, whatever it is. It's like just take the time to make a little ritual of what you're doing, like lighting a candle. Fire is so essential. I'm sure and you feel connected, with fire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
being a glassblower. And I mean, a lot of what you're saying resonates with me and how me and my wife work. Is when we started, I mean, we put so much intention into our practice. I wouldn't say that we are trying to make something that looks or resembles something, but it has the energy of us, and it has the energy of our story and our intention. And I feel like it's a strong part of how we connect with our collectors.
Yeah.
They feel us when they're with us and with our work. And then they also are sharing in that when they own our work and we're not there. So it to us, it's a very personal interaction.
Fire is so primal, is so elemental, is, we have fire in our bodies.
Yeah.
We have fire in the weather, in the heat. Like you have the sun, thanks to the sun, we are alive. And it's like a transforming element. And, when we get, like in my case, mud, it's just like a very humble, simple substance. And,
that's what your work starts from is mud.
Yeah, it's like
your porcelain pieces.
Yeah, and like, with glass, the same. You start with something that doesn't have a shape, doesn't have a form, and you flow with the element. You flow with the heat, you flow with the water, you flow with what you use to create something. And then I'm sure that when you are not feeling happy, you're not going to go to the studio. Because
no. In fact, we intentionally don't. If it's not flowing that day, we have no problem saying, not today.
Yeah. So it's like we really, even if we do that unconscious, we really put our souls into what we are creating. So, and you're putting like it's not only, your time, your hands, you and your wife's work. It's also something that, probably, I don't know how you connected the first time with glass work or art, but it's something that probably was taught to you by a person, or you saw something and you have a connection and you want to transmit that and create, this connection from the first time you hold an object and you say, it's so beautiful. I will, one day when I make something like this, right? Or in my case, when I was in the museum, I was like, well, this is so beautiful. What is this? It looks like it was so enigmatic, so magical.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to like, I didn't know. I was a kid. I will keep making this, will do this thing at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like, even when we have to make a living and you have to make things that probably people will enjoy and they will buy, it's like we can have some objects, in our booths
Mm-hmm.
for that.
Yeah.
And some that, it's like if you die tomorrow and this is your last day and it's like, okay, this is your last 24 hours, what will you do? Like probably you will be with your family, you will like, eat something you like, probably you will create, probably you will write. It's like we have to live in a way that time is, I won't say time is money, I would say time is passing,
Mm-hmm.
Every year that we have a birthday is 1 year less. It's not another year.
Right.
It's like 1 year that already passed. It's forgotten, right? So we have to bring this time into our creations so we can not only last and transcend time, but we can also, help people in the future to keep the object, to keep the artifact.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, I will say that going back to Kandinsky into the creations of useful art that is gonna awake, feelings is what I try to do
Mm-hmm.
with my work, and try to bring the spiritual world of plants and, meats from the Amazon, meats from the Andes, and that people can see, there is a magical world that we cannot perceive, right? It's not very common to our five senses,
Mm-hmm.
but magic exists,
Yeah.
and I won't say magic in like Harry Potter way. I will say in the mystical way that Earth has been in this huge, universe for so long, and it's pretty mystic that we are alive and that we are connected,
Mm-hmm.
and that we can create things that is gonna surpass our lifetime on Earth.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that being an artist is not just a job to you, that it's actually your, I don't know, like your archetype, it's how you live your life in order to have like a sense of meaning?
Yeah. Yeah. I try to, and I always have this conversation with family members and that, because I could be making things that are more easy to sell.
Mm.
I have to find like the right audience. It's like, English is not my first language, so sometimes I don't want to talk too much. People will love the word. Then I was like, what is the real meaning behind this? So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to know, I can talk to you a little bit more. And if you want to be in your own world,
Mm-hmm.
right? And connect yourself through your own probably perception without having the artist and what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. I don't want to interrupt that connection, because everybody has their own life. So it's like they can connect in a different way that I didn't mean at all.
Right,
So
right.
it's like, what they perceive is perfect.
What the audience
But
brings to it is equally valuable and valid,
yeah, I think like my most controversial piece, I mean, I'm making one now for next year.
Okay.
But I had this huge, big painting that was like a being, looks like a little animal, but has breasts, was pregnant, and has a penis.
Okay.
And it was, for me, it was Mother Earth as an androgynous being, male and female,
Yeah.
fertile, and it was like in the dark. It has some element of fire, a caterpillar, and that piece, like many people open their eyes, oh, it has a penis, but it has breasts. What is this, right? So
Right.
at some point, I wrote down, the meaning of every painting, so people can read it by themselves. And then if they wanted me to explain a little bit more, I was, open to. People were coming to the booth, even like I remember kids at a show that were like, oh, look at that. We're making fun of the little penis.
Okay, yeah.
And when I was able to see that painting in my house at night, when everything was dark and maybe a little light somewhere, I could see, Earth floating there. And in South America, we call it the Pachamama, Mother Earth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I was like, yeah, but I believe like it's not only a feminine. It's like Earth is by itself fertile. Probably humans at some point we're gonna disappear, and Earth will last.
Mm-hmm.
I never apply without painting ever. Like,
Okay.
it was like, I'm gonna be just like rejected right away. So, and I do sell more ceramics than paintings in these 3 years now.
Okay.
I've sold probably of those big paintings only 2.
Okay.
I sold that painting this year, and I had offers for that painting, like people asking me if I can go down a little bit on the price and that, and I don't repeat my paintings, so I don't really go down on the price.
Sure.
And I was surprised when somebody they were like, I want this piece, and I was like, oh, you want to hear a little bit more about the meaning of this? And they were like, yeah, sure, but they were already
You already had them.
Yeah. So, and for me, it was like, wow, like, okay, controversial piece is gone. I have other paintings that I consider that I won't say they are better, but I will probably like them more. But, I was like, it was special for me because they were like, a young couple here, like from the US, right? So it's like not my culture, not people that, I'm from South America, so I feel connected, not at all.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think it's important that we get these special connections with people that are unknown.
Mm-hmm. So we've been talking about the different mediums that you work in. How do you determine, like, if you get a visual, how do you determine how you're going to realize that vision? If it's going to be a porcelain sculpture, or if it's going to be a painting, or any other kind of piece, how do you determine that?
Well, I will say that depends on, what I have. As I told you before, I have that in my books, in my diary.
Mm-hmm.
So probably so far I've been doing stuff that I had for years,
Mm-hmm.
10 years. So there are some things that I have done that are more like a character, something that is just, floating around and doesn't have a background, doesn't have like a landscape or something, it's just like a character, right? And there are some that are like, have more symbolism in them. And we have, a little narration around like, the environment, what is doing, what is looking. This Pachamama painting that I was just talking about, I have that being done. Probably I did the drawing in, I guess, was 2015. I have that tattoo in my back for probably like, I don't know, 15 years probably.
Wow, yeah.
And I made a painting 2 years ago. So I already had the character. It was already, with a color pillar around. But instead of being a color pillar, it was more like a dragon. So the body, like the face was a feather dragon, kind of like the Mayan feather snake. And I had that already. So I was like, okay, I want to make a painting of this. And usually what I will do is that I want to be hyper realistic. So I have the drawing already made with the colors and everything, but I need to have like a better lighting, like, for the shades, like all the shadows and the light. So sometimes I will make the piece or the face or the character and have the lighting I want, and I will make the ceramic. So some pieces have ceramics. I have them. At some point in my life, I'm gonna have probably an exhibition of these pieces that are not putting out yet. I collect them myself, I would say.
So are you saying sometimes a piece might be represented three-dimensionally and also as a painting?
Yes. So I will make the shape, right, in ceramics. I will paint that, and then I will use light, like, probably like some light. So I will get the lighting I want, and then I will go for references of real eyes, real like textures, things. So I have some of the pieces that I will paint. But with ceramics, it's a little bit different because what I want to do with my paintings is kind of like have a visual of something that is unseen. I try to have this dream or this vision or something that is not part of reality. So that's why I have more myths, allegories, and that in there. But with the ceramics, I want to create artifacts. So because I'm inspiring pre-Columbian ceramics, there are many things, many objects that were used by shamans, like things contain special medicines or, water, things that were like potions, right? And some are like musical instruments that are not really musical instruments, are more like ocarinas that I want to use it in a way that your breath transforms in a sound that is going to be carried around by the wind. So those are artifacts, right? So for example, I could have sometimes objects that can have paintings around the body that are, inspiring in the spirits of nature. So they are created a way to have an object that has a functional purpose. Like with a painting, I'm telling more like it's like a little snapshot of a story that I'm trying to narrate.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, there is an element of something that's three-dimensional object. Even if it's a sculptural object, I find this with some of our pieces too, people still feel a sense of function or a sense of, artifact nature to it. And we do, my wife and I like to work both. I mean, our work is three-dimensional even when it's hanging on a wall, but it has more of a two-dimensional effect spatially than, let's say, something that's sitting on a table or on a mantle or a pedestal. And I find a real sense of satisfaction to be working in both ways, something that is more two-dimensional versus three-dimensional. Do you feel that as well, or do you have a similar kind of connection to working in multidisciplinary kind of mediums?
I would say that I prefer to do paintings.
You do? Okay.
I'm a better painter than I'm a ceramicist. When I came to the US is when I found porcelain for the first time. And I only took a 3-month workshop. So I've been improving. If I see pieces from the workshop, I was in 2014 when I probably during 2020 is when I got my kiln. So I started really to create, and I found porcelain was incredible. It was like very plastic and very easy to have like beautiful details with that, but was breaking and cracking so easy. And I was crying a lot. Like I was really crying a lot, getting very emotions that I was very heartbroken for pieces that I put so much time on to just, break because I was making a lot of mistakes. I didn't study that. So it was my own fault.
So was it like after they've been glazed and stuff, they might start popping on you after they've been gone through the kiln?
A mistake I was making was like I was opening the kiln too early when it was too hot.
Right, yeah.
So I didn't know those things. So my first show I did when I went to Daphne in Alabama, I went to that show with ceramics only. It's a very sad boot shot. If I show you the picture, I had, table.
We've all been there. Don't worry. No shame.
No, but I was, I won best of show there. So I was impressed because I was like, wow, I didn't sell much. With the award money, it's, helped me out a lot. And then when I went to Rivers, I had probably 2 or 3 paintings. So I started to make the paintings because I saw everybody at the park in New Orleans at City Park selling prints. And I was a little bit jealous, like how these people, making money just with this. So I was like, I'm a better painter. And instead of being crying over my broken objects, I'm going to start painting. And, you can always fix mistakes with painting. And that's why I started. Now, if I talk about a business point of view, I sell more ceramics and paint. So in these 3 years from 2023 at Gasparilla, I have every year I'm like adding 2 or 3 paintings. So at Gasparilla, as an emerging artist, I only had my paintings. right? And I didn't win anything, but two of my paintings were taken to the jurors' room,
Right.
to compete for an award. And I sold prints, of course. Like, it was like not a good show at the time for me. And then when I went to Houston, I have, bought mediums. So I've been by myself with ceramics. I've been, only with paintings. And I can see, what people get to buy, more between those two. But it's like, I think like for me, it's easier to make a painting than ceramic. But people want to buy it. So because I get to sell them more, I have to make more, right? So I can keep my inventory. And, I'm like with time learning to don't have attachment to these pieces. Still I cry, still I feel like that little thing in my heart.
You're saying when they break or when you sell them?
When they break.
Yeah.
When I saw them, I'm like, like somebody's adopting my work, and I feel very happy, when people is like, yeah, it's taking them. With my paintings, it's hard to part ways with them because I won't repeat them, but that's why the prices are higher than my ceramics. So I will just wait for the right person to take this painting that is not going to be repeated. So I still have, the drawing in my diary. But
well, is it difficult for you to, it's hard enough to set up a single booth and do one body of work. Will you do a show if it's only one body of work, or do you do a show if you can only show both bodies?
So far, I've been lucky enough to get in most of the shows with both bodies. And in Florida, I have to have two canopies. So I prefer to have, one booth with both mediums because I think like they complement each other.
Like a single booth or two, like a double booth?
No,
single booth with one with two mediums.
I'm trying also to be low in expenses right now. And so I think like, a corner booth, one single booth, it's, all I need right now. But in some shows in Florida, I have to have two booths. There is only one show that is my biggest regret, that I got waitlisted in one meeting and rejected in the other one. And then they called me out of the waitlist for ceramics. And it was the first time I got into Jazz Fest. So that show was like probably a couple of weeks before Jazz Fest. I was like working a lot, making art for that. So I say no. After that, I got rejected. Like already
wait a minute.
2 years already. I always get rejected in that show. So I could have done it, but I didn't do it. And that's my biggest regret.
Yeah. That opportunity came around, and they don't always come back around, but it will again at some point. You just got to keep trying.
It's like, that's important thing that, know that, you can be rejected, and it's one day there is going to be a juror that likes your work and connects with it, and probably are going to, select you. But
yes. Some people work their entire careers and try and get into some top shows like, say, Cherry Creek, for example. And not only were you able to jury into it pretty early in your attempt at doing art shows, you also won an award, which in turn allowed you to be invited to be a juror for the show. Would you say that you learned a lot about art show process and about what people are applying with being a juror for a top show like Cherry Creek?
I'm going to go back a little bit if I'm able. So after being rejected on 2023 of all these main shows, I applied, last minute to St. Louis, and I was rejected too. They have all the open jury results where you can see all the little pictures of every artist that is applying. Is when I realized, okay, it's not my art, it's the presentation of my, display. And at that point, I didn't, it's like a lot of money to buy prop panels and all that. So somebody let me use theirs, and I made the pictures. And then on 2024, I got in all the shows, including Cherry Creek. So the year prior, I got rejected and waitlisted in one meeting rejected and the other one waitlisted. So on 2024, when I was able to go to these big shows that I was rejected in the year previous, prior year, for me was a huge surprise, like being able to, win awards and that, because my art is so weird and whimsical. And
It's definitely unique. It's
so
unique for sure.
I was like, well, like, I'm very grateful. So in this case, Cherry Creek, I got in after the second year, and I think it's important to keep applying to shows even if you get rejected. I see a lot of comments online of the groups, right? So how people get a little bit bitter about shows, and Cherry Creek is, one of like the main topics sometimes. So being a juror there and having that huge opportunity almost at the beginning of my career in the circuit, it was very insightful for me. I think like the show itself is not only very prestigious, but it is respected, well created. I think that this show is different. I don't know much about the other shows in the jury process, but this show focused more into like how good is the work, the skillfulness, like the techniques, the creativity, and they don't focus on the production part of the application. How well produced are the pictures, how professional the display is. So they focus more, and it's what they ask us to focus more in the four pictures of the work itself, and not like how professional the shot was.
Do you feel like that gives an opportunity for maybe people new to the scene to get a leg up and be like, you know what, I see the work. Maybe it's not presented the best way, but this particular applicant really is on point with what they're making.
In my case, it's like this show, Cherry Creek wants a diverse show. Like, they have inclusivity, accessibility, equality as their main values. For the first time, being a juror, I realized like how a show will accept the vision and the resolutions of the panel of jurors, So I think like, it's a lot of integrity that a show entrusts that the experts that they are bringing, and, everything is definitive. So it's like they won't ever, even talk about something. It's like we were all talking between the other jurors. So in the case of, in this particular show, because they are like focusing more on the excellence and the quality of the work itself and not the picture or the display. Personally, as an immigrant who, I didn't have all like the money to put into displays, at the beginning, right? So I am very grateful that there are shows that are focusing more into the art itself. And I think like is a good way to bring like artists that are starting their careers, but probably have like really really good work, and that are not getting into other like big shows because their boot shots are not good enough. And in this case, like even Cherry Creek is like between like Tara and Emmy, and they are putting an incredible work behind, and the organization itself, they have these programs, like they are offering now a scholarship for emerging artists. I wish I could have been an emerging artist this show. And even like having the kids programs where the schools can buy art. So it's like sometimes people complain in the blogs or in the forums.
Sure.
What these shows are doing with all the applications money, and like trying to have this huge amount, and they have to pay that, they have to bring jurors together, they have other expenses, and besides they have programs that they are not working only the months prior to the show, they are working 12 months a year. So in this case, I think like Cherry Creek will always have like this special place in my heart, and I think they are very right about like not trying to focus on how good and professional the pictures are, not like much the aesthetic, but the execution of the work.
Craftsmanship.
Yeah, the craftsmanship.
All of that goes into being into the art.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting to hear that reaction, that you lived that you experienced that. I mean, both as an exhibitor, but then also as being an award winner and a juror on top of that, to know where the intentions are for that show. Because I do feel like something you said earlier, when you submitted an application in to St. Louis and you were able to look back through your application and see it in comparison to the other applicants, you could see it with a sense of clarity. You know, I feel like some people look at their own work and they don't get why they're not getting the opportunities or the chances. And they go to the common denominator of it being somebody's out to get me. You know, they're blocking me from this show. There's cool kids who are making it about keeping their friends involved. And you were able to look at it and say, no, I think if I wanted to make my application better, I need to make my booth shop better. And you started there and you immediately started seeing results. That's really good to be able to look at your work objectively and your applications objectively and to be able to take in criticism.
I think like it's important for everyone to, do research.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sometimes we are too egotistic thinking, my work has been good and I've been in shows for so many years and now I'm not getting into the shows anymore. But it's like new people is coming and you have to keep like improving yourself. And sometimes probably you're the first person, a very original art you have, and then more people is making very similar work that you're doing, and probably they are, I would say, doing it better sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. So it looks very, similar to other people's work. And I think like at some point, it's like every juror is going to read your statement. So the statement is like the very unique space where you can say why you are is different from anybody else's work, right? So, and how you are connecting with the work. It's like, we are trying to have an artistic vision that we want to share with the world, right? And, we have to try to stay true to ourselves, to honor our particular vision, how we express ourselves in our work. So I will say, it's like I'm going to keep applying to the shows that I keep getting rejected, right? So at some point I'm going to get there. I hope I can get there and I can have a good show or an okay show. It will be, but at some point it's like, time changes, more people is coming, people is leaving. So we have always to challenge ourselves to constantly like improve and be our own critics and, try just like to master our talents. I really hope like, one day I can create art that I'm like so proud that I have improved my skill, kind of like, getting the masterpiece in your last years because finally you cannot improve more, right? So sometimes people get too comfortable because, they are very successful, they are making a lot of money. And probably then when some new people is coming with work that, probably is a little bit different, they can feel like, oh, well, in the past getting into the shows, now it's like, so it's about the cool kids table. And I don't think so. Yeah.
We just saw a documentary that we've been so excited to watch. And it's based on the life of Lino Tagliapietra. And he's a famous glass artist. A lot of us glass artists, we really look to Lino as being the great glass-blowing maestro. He's from Italy. He's from the island of Murano. And over there, he said, nobody called themselves a maestro.
Yeah.
It's something that is bestowed upon you based on your proficiency and your years at it and whatever. And he says, but when he came to America, and he was working with American artists or whatever, he says, everybody's throwing the master statement around left and right. He goes, I don't consider myself a maestro. That's what other people say. I'm okay. I'm just okay. But everyone else in America will walk around and call themselves a master. And it's like bolstering up their egos or something. And I don't remember why I'm telling this story, but there was something you were saying about that, about
Mastery.
becoming proficient and becoming a master in your craft. And it reminded me of that.
It's like, with time we are, evolving, we're changing.
Yeah.
Our life experiences are changing. Whatever was meaningful for me, in my 20s, is not meaningful for me anymore at this time of my life. So it's like, I think like, because art is a manifestation of your soul and and of the present, of the times you are living, whatever, is happening around us that we feed on, right? So your art has to evolve with you. So it's like you cannot keep making the same work that you were doing, 20 or 30 years ago, right?
Sure.
Not because times are changing and people like trendy things. I'm very against, of trendy art, but I think we have to improve and we have to change.
Staying curious, right?
Yes.
And evolving.
And we have to master our talent, right? We have to just keep evolving with the work. And at some point, probably when I'm in my 80s, I don't know, it's like I have, like right now, I have a work that I see that is better than the work that I did probably 7 years ago. And I feel very happy about it. But I'm sure, like, me in 10 years, I'm going to have an artwork that I'm going to say, no, this is my best so far. I see other artists, like everybody is putting their soul into their art. They are not maybe saying or stating that, but that is what is happening. Even when, even when you're cooking, you are putting like your energy, you're putting part of like, something that is going to nourish you. So art nourishes the soul. And people get it not because I have this empty space that I want to feel. Well, sometimes they do.
Sometimes,
right? But they are like, this piece is calling me. So that happens to every artist, I think. So
I've gone to plenty of houses to do some installing, and I can look at their collections and realize these people buy pieces that speak to them, not just pieces that are decoration for their home. You know what I'm saying? That they are connecting to the story and the work and the artist.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love to see that it's not that they're just, we have a blank wall and we need something to fill it,
Yeah. I always believe like we are very, we are like a resistance. People that want to keep being free, not only financially, but, we are out of the corporate change, that uses people. Like we are being used constantly. We are not being appreciated as humans being. We are replaceable. They discard us. Like we are a broken robot. And, most companies are always, for profit. So they don't see the humanity that we all possess, right? We are just like numbers and we are statistics. So I came to the US because in Ecuador, if you don't have contacts, you are not selling. I feel like here I have more opportunities as a person, without big names around me, that I can be seen and I can make a name for myself without context, right? And even like, if you see in the industry in general, the people is the people that can make it, right? So if we are in this like peculiar way of making a living, very different from stability that comes with a high price, where you manage your own time, right? So it's like you want to be very stressed. You want to be 14. I'm like sometimes, working 14 hours. I don't feel like it's working for me, like painting or it's like playing, like playing as a kid. I think like the hard time is when I have to go sell because I'm not a good seller. And that is when it hits me like I'm tired. I'm so tired. But if we are this naive cluster of people with ideals of trying to manifest our inner self through a piece of art, that somebody else is going to take from you, and that is going to last longer than we are going to last. So you are doing it because you are different from everybody else. So at this point, I think that we are like special. I feel that we are, and that's the interesting realization that when we go to shows, we are having like a special summer camp around people that are like, yeah, we all have the same worries. We have to pay things, but we all have like these ideals that, we can make a living doing what we enjoy doing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've heard other creatives, famous like music producers, writers, artists, whatever, talk about people saying that when they get older that they should retire. They should retire from work because that's like the mentality is like you work till you're old and then you relax, I guess. I don't know what you do. Diane Warren, who wrote a lot of big movie theme songs, I saw her documentary and she talks about how people tell her to retire. And she says, but this is my life. My life is making music. I don't retire from my life.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like that's the thing we're all choosing is we're choosing this life. We're not choosing this job. We're choosing this life.
Yeah, you're right. And it's like you decide, the day off. So even if you want to clutter your mind and just reading nonsense,
Yeah.
it's still, you want to have a time for just like not thinking, and if you want to nourish your body or be present with your family, be present, in reality. And because when we go to work, that's not reality at all. Like,
No.
we create a whole environment.
We're in somebody else's world helping somebody else make money for themselves.
It's like when we are working, I'm like in a different dimension. I feel like, like, have you seen this very old movie, The Golem? That comes from this, like, I think it's a Jewish story, like, the golem that is like this huge giant that, was given life.
Okay.
I don't know if it's golem. It's Gollem.
Let me look it up. It sounds
It's a
familiar.
golem. So it's like, like was like a warrior for, in this story, like he was created from mud.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah. Okay, JR. I see
so,
a picture of him. Yeah.
So I feel like, it's like when I'm making something and then, I giving like a special, characteristic to this. Like sometimes they are happy, sometimes they are like, grumpy or something like that. So I feel like, because I see the faces, I'm giving life to them. So I have a lot of elements, around me that feels like I'm a creator, like of something more sublime than a piece of clay. It's like it's still clay, but I'm like making something that, this little thing at night probably roams around the house. I don't know what. So I feel like, we are like all like special, making all of these things. And even like if your art doesn't have a face, right? Like, literally a kid, like I'm, just going everywhere with my toes. This beautiful kid in New Orleans came and she was like running into my booth and she was like, everything has faces. There's a face here. There's a face here. There's a face.
And they have big lips.
Like, everything, even this has a face. What's this? And so I was like, yeah, everything has faces. It's true. So I feel like, trying to see the way that, this is our life, like our chosen path. And, I would love like to be able to win the lottery so I can have all the financial worries out of my head. But so far I'm making art for the sake of art. I feel like this is like a play party job because I play with, my art. I'm playing all the time. And then when I go to the shows, I have all this social time with people that I love because we all like understand each other. So,
Yeah.
We just have to do what we have to do in order to feel accomplished. In my case, it's not I want to be the poor artist. I want to, have money and make a living, be able to collect art from other artists that I admire. But I also I don't want to sell out. I'm like, I'm not a product. I'm not, a brand. I'm a human, and I'm sharing my life. I'm sharing part of my soul goes with every creation that comes from me. So this is what it is. This is who I am. Right now, in this point of my life, this is the person I am. If I share, with a word like the art that I did, when I was like so busy working in advertising and that, it's pretty dark, right? Very, very dark. So I can see, through my art at what point of my life I'm right now. And, probably in 10 years, I'm in a different, point of my life. And that is going to be reflected in my work.
I think that's a beautiful place to end. When you said art is the manifestation of our souls, I think that is really profound, and it resonates a lot with me. So thank you for sharing your story and your connection to your artwork and your path. I'm really happy to hear about that. So thank you, Nathalia.
Thank you. Nice, talking to you and be able to share my experience here. And I hope, we see each other in the future.
Oh, we will. We'll be seeing each other down the road. And next time I see you, we'll get to talk in person. So,
all right. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
One of the most amazing things about putting the podcast together kind of piecemeal like this is that I'm going to say, what an amazing talk that I haven't listened to yet. Sorry about that. I didn't listen to it with you folks. I just was the guy talking at the beginning of the show, and now I'm talking at the end of the show, and it's the same guy. So anyway, I trust it was a lovely talk.
It was amazing. We had this conversation before any of the stuff with ICE happened. I really enjoyed her being really open about her immigrant experience without it being kind of clouded by all of the stuff that's going on, in the last number of months and the chaos that's happening in our country. So I really appreciate her being genuine and authentic and sharing her intention behind her work.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I will appreciate that.
Yes, you will.
When I sit down and listen.
Will appreciate that.
I will. All right. Nobody likes that. Let's see next week, shall we? We've got some really cool talks. If they still will talk to me, even though I haven't, I said
not after that preamble. Jeez.
Yeah, just get out of my way, right? Just don't park in the middle of the street. Don't put your awnings up before the people have pulled off. Just common sense, people. Come on.
Right.
I'm everybody's favorite this week. All right. Back in the studio. I'm going to try to finish something real quick. So
get her done. Get her done there, sir.
Don't do that.
I know you hate that. That's not your thing.
I'm from the South. I can't do that. All right, buddy. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by the National Association of Independent Artists. The website is naiaartists.org.
Also sponsored by Zapplication. That's zapplication.org. And while you're at it, find us on social media and engage in these conversations.
Be sure to subscribe to this podcast to be notified when we release new episodes.
Oh, and if you like the show, we'd love it if you would give us your 5-star rating and offer up your most creative review on your podcast streaming service. See you next time.